Welcome everyone. So I'm here to share another virtue and move on um, to part two of where we left off. We're picking up on the characteristics of anger. And before I start, I just want to pray, and then actually I'll share um, what I wanted to share with you guys, and then I'll move forward uh, before we get into what I want to share with you all. So, um, I took a picture of this, and this quote really, um, it just really spoke to me. So I wanted to share it with you all before I get into the word. I feel some, I feel some, connection with it. So, you know, here we go. On its worst days, the world is full of much more good than evil, more kindness than contempt, and more hope than resignation. Otherwise, we could not long to continue the struggle called life. We didn't inherit the land from our ancestors, we borrowed it from our children. What a confused society that buys war toys for its children but denies them knowledge about the exciting process through which they came into this world. I'm uncomfortable judging the worthiness of another's religion. Why do the less well off give disproportionately? Maybe it has something to do with being closer to the level of need. Thinking is strenuous work. If it weren't, more people would take it up. Religion and the arts share a common spirituality. Both strive to illuminate and inspire. So I'll 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 let that sit, and I'll move into the word. So, um, God, I come to you right now, just asking that you help my character be changed from reading your word, that your word truly renews and transforms. So I'm a better person having having being in your presence and having reading your word and actually wanting it to change to change me for the better. But I ask that you allow me to see you um, in this word and make the right connections. Uh, as to what we can extract um, from the information given here. So, um, without further ado, I'll get into the word. And I thank you for this time. I thank you for everyone that's on the other side of the screen watching, um, wanting to see themselves um, change and develop, but also know that, your word is there for all situations. Some things internal, and externally as well. Um, in your name, I pray with full thanks. Amen. So, this virtue is called His Love Reaching by Gloria Gaither. Right from the beginning, God's love has reached, and from the beginning, man has refused to understand. But love went on reaching, offering itself. Love offered the eternal, and we wanted the immediate. Love offered deep joy, and we wanted thrills. Love offered freedom, and we wanted license. Love offered communion with God Himself, We wanted to worship at the shrine of our own minds. Love offered peace. We wanted approval for our wars. Even yet, love went on reaching. And still today, after 2,000 years, patiently, lovingly, Christ is reaching out to us today. Right through the, the chaos of our world, through the confusion of our minds, He is reaching, longing to share with us. The very being of God. His love still is longing. His love still is reaching right past the shackles of my mind. And the word of the Father became Mary's little son. His love reached all the way to where I was. The characteristics of anger, part 2. Betrayal by any person is bruising, but betrayal by a friend cuts especially deep, wounding the soul. Everyone expects opposition from those on the outside, but what do you do when opposition comes from within? From among your own circle, your closest confidants, your trusted few. One national leader knew the hurt of such betrayal. He had led wisely, he demonstrated courage, and he won the confidence of the people. He was there for them, and they knew it. However, a leader under him, an enemy in the camp, undermined the chief's authority. He created such dissension, that this man stole the loyalty of 250 of his other leaders. Those whom he had trusted throughout the years, those who knew him the best, those who should have been most loyal to him, turned against him. In response, however, Moses did not express his anger by taking personal revenge, but rather appealed to the Lord to act on his behalf. I think this is leading somewhere. Moses became very angry and said to the Lord, do not accept their offering. I have not wronged any of them. Numbers chapter 16, verse 15. Although justifiably angry, Moses had learned how to act rather than react. He restrained his rage, poured out his heart, and pleaded with the Lord to deal with his offenders. In turn, God took up Moses' cause, destroyed his betrayers, and defended his honor. Moses refused to take revenge, but rather allowed the Lord to be his avenger, because God had given this promise. It is mine to avenge, I will repay. Deuteronomy 32, chapter 32, verse 35. What are your anger cues? The human body has a physical reaction when it experiences anger. These anger cues can alert you when you're beginning to feel angry. Discerning your anger cues can help you avoid trouble. Likewise, being aware of the signs of anger in others can alert you of the need to appropriately defend yourself if necessary. Did Moses have that reaction? Alright. A biblical example of an anger cue is Jonathan's loss of appetite when he was hurt and grieved over his father's unjust and shameful treatment towards his close friend David. Jonathan got up from the table in fierce anger, and on that second day of the month he did not eat because he was grieved at his father's shameful treatment of David. That's 1 Samuel chapter 20, verse 34. In seeking to identify your anger cues, some of the following questions below. Do you have a decreased appetite? Do you feel unusually hot or cold? Do you find that you are breathing faster or harder? Do you feel flushed? Do you clench your fist? Do you feel your heart racing or pounding? Do you use language that's inappropriate, harsh, or coarse? Sarcasm, gossip, or profanity? Does your mouth get dry? Do you have tense muscles? Do you have increased perspiration? Do you practice silence, shutting down verbally? Do you use loud or rapid, high-pitched speech? Do you experience an upset or churning stomach? Do you clench your teeth? Do you twitch or exhibit anxious behaviors, tapping a pencil or shaking a foot? Do you walk hard and fast or pace back and forth? Once you have identified your anger cues, you will be in a position to quickly identify when you are angry. Then you can direct your energies towards producing a positive outcome. 2 Corinthians chapter 7 verse 11. See what this godly sorrow has produced in you. What earnestness, what eagerness to clear yourselves, what indignation, what alarm, what longing, what concern, what readiness to see justice done. At every point you have proved yourselves to be innocent in this matter. Do you act or react when you are angry? Part B. When you are angry, does reason rule your mind, or do tense emotions take control? I don't think Moses let his tense emotions take control. Do you allow the mind of Christ within you to determine how you should act? A choice that leads to appropriate action. Was his prayer the appropriate action? Or do you have a knee-jerk reaction that leads to inappropriate reaction? If you have never evaluated what happens when you feel angry, if you lack insight as to how others perceive you when you are angry, seek God's wisdom and understanding. If you call out for insight and cry aloud for understanding, if you look for it as silver and search for it as for hidden treasure, then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. For the Lord gives wisdom, and from his mouth come knowledge and understanding. Proverbs chapter 2 verses 3 through 6. An appropriate action is expressing your thoughts and feelings with restraint, understanding, and concern for the other person's welfare. I don't think we always do that. A man of knowledge uses words with restraint, and a man of understanding is even tempered. I think we've all been on one side of the extreme or another. That was Proverbs chapter 17 verse 27. And an inappropriate reaction is expressing your thoughts and feelings in such a way that stirs up anger in others and produces strife. Proverbs, the book on wisdom, paints this graphic picture. As churning the milk produces butter, and as twisting the nose produces blood, so stirring up anger produces strife. Proverbs chapter 30 verse 33. To help assess whether you act or react, some of these questions below might help. Do you forgive personal injustices? Do you have a flexible and cooperative attitude? Do you have realistic expectations? Do you focus first on your own faults? Do you want to help the one who angers you? Do you try to see the other person's point of view? Do you use tactful and compassionate words? Those would be some appropriate actions. Inappropriate reactions. Do you use tactless condemning words? Do you only see your point of view? Do you want to punish the one who angers you? Most people want to answer yeah. Do you focus only on the faults of others? Do you have unrealistic expectations? Do you have a rigid, uncooperative attitude? And do you have difficulty forgiving injustices? I think we've all been there. Even though a situation may evoke anger, those who allow the Lord to be their strength will respond appropriately. As God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Colossians chapter 3, verse 12. What are some of the symptoms of unresolved anger? Part C. The emotion of anger is not a problem in itself, but anger becomes a problem when left unresolved. Prolonged anger fans the flame of bitterness, and fuels unforgiveness. One way you could choose to harbor that anger is by refusing to face your feelings in a healthy way. Such unresolved anger not only creates a rift between you and God, but also damages your body and destroys your emotions and demoralizes your relationships. I think Moses didn't want to create a rift between him and God, so he gave it to him. He's trying to lead them like how he showed them. Let me make sure I have that right. Justifiably angry, he learned how to act rather than react. He restrained his rage, he poured out his heart, and pleaded with the Lord to deal with his offenders. I wonder if that was all out of love. Whether you recognize it or not, prolonged anger can cause significant physical, emotional, and spiritual problems, Jesus said. I tell you that anyone who is angry with his brother will be subject to judgment. Matthew chapter 5, verse 22. Unresolved anger is known to produce in many people some of the following physical, emotional, and spiritual symptoms. You know what, I want to just take a moment and ask God to deal with any unforgiveness that I have towards other people or anything. God asks that on behalf of me in this moment right now, and just wanting to develop my character and be refined from your word, that I'm no longer angry with my brother. Those with whom you truly have called, all of us to help and to speak to. Help me to release. Help me to let go of anger, bitterness, unforgiveness from injustices or moments in life that we think we were treated unfairly. Allow me not to create a rift between your spirit and mine, between your word and your presence. Help me to forgive. Help me to let go. Help me to move forward. Help me to understand that it is not our job to pass down judgment. It is yours. Help me to make better decisions. Help me to better love each and every person the way you meant for us to. Help me to be a better example. Help me to be a better doer of your word. I really think Moses didn't want to create that rift, because I wasn't back in history, but with him, with him trying to lead, he had to really hear what God was saying. And even though it made the people following him angry because maybe they didn't know what he was doing, or they didn't understand, they just they didn't understand the things that God was telling him to do. God, I thank you for this moment. I thank you for allowing me to be in your presence. Amen. Unresolved anger is known to produce in many people some of the following physical, emotional, and spiritual symptoms. Physical symptoms: high blood pressure, headaches, heart disease, blurred vision, stomach disorders, insomnia, intestinal disorders, compulsive eating. And emotional symptoms: anxiety, fear, bitterness, compulsions, insecurity, phobias, hatred, depression. And spiritual symptoms: loss of perspective, allowing your emotions to distort your thinking. Is that bias? Is that this to distort your thinking? Loss of vision, losing a sense of purpose for your life. Loss of sensitivity, failing to hear the Spirit of God speaking to your heart. Loss of energy, lacking strength for your service to God and others. Loss of freedom, becoming a prisoner of your circumstances. Loss of confidence, feeling insecure about your response to difficulties. Loss of faith, failing to trust that God is working in your life. Loss of identity, becoming like the person toward whom you are bitter. Unresolved anger produces bitterness, and the Bible links bitterness with being in bondage to sin. Acts chapter 8, verse 23. I see that you are full of bitterness and captive to sin. Do you have hidden anger? Part D. Many people live life unaware that they have hidden anger, suppressed anger that only occasionally surfaces. While this anger is usually rooted in past childhood hurts, the underlying effects are always ready to surface. For example, when someone says or does something wrong, the one with suppressed anger often overreacts. When someone makes an innocent mistake, the magnitude of the anger is exhibited out of proportion to the mistake. If you have hidden anger, you can find yourself at one extreme or another, from feeling hopeless to feeling hostile, and yet being totally unaware of why you are experiencing these feelings. The Bible makes it clear that some of our motives and emotions are hidden from our own view. Who can discern his errors? Forgive my hidden faults. Psalm chapter 19, verse 12. Clues to finding hidden anger. Do you become irritable over trifles? Do you smile on the outside while you hurt on the inside? Do you find your identity and worth in excessive work? Do you ever deny being impatient? Do you have to have the last word? Do those close to you say you blame others? Do you feel emotionally flat? Do you find yourself quickly fatigued? Do you have a loss of interest in life? Do you become easily frustrated? As the Lord reveals any hidden anger that has taken root in your heart, take action to resolve it. Man's anger does not bring about the righteous life that God desires. James chapter 1, verse 20. If anyone is dealing with any hidden anger that has taken root in your heart, it could be years ago, it could be from a particular person, a particular situation, that we kind of just stuffed away and just, and just thought, I'll leave it alone, I won't really speak about it, and it'll just go away. Now, from reading this passage, I know everyone is at a different point, but I know that we're here to to be renewed, and in some of the clues given, I just want to encourage people to be willing to dig deep. This is not an easy thing. You'll be climbing over other emotions in the process. Because unresolved anger produces bitterness, and sometimes, going back to the spiritual symptoms, that bitterness can create that loss of perspective. And so it's important for us to remember how, if left unchecked, if left unresolved, we can really find ourselves going to one extreme or another due to what's really underneath it, what's really underneath it all. the Bible makes it clear that some of our motives and emotions are hidden away from our view. Hmm. So what I want to do is read another. I'm sorry. I want to end this um, reading this passage here. It's from Do you act or react when you're angry? If you call out for insight and cry aloud for understanding, if you look for it as for silver and search for it as hidden treasure, getting to the root of the issue, and search for it as hidden treasure, then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. For the Lord gives wisdom, and from his mouth come knowledge and understanding. I believe Moses had it right. To not mess up that relationship. He restrained his rage and poured out his heart and pleaded with the Lord to deal with his offenders. He did not express his anger by taking personal revenge, but rather appealed to the Lord to act on his behalf. The symptoms and the characteristics play a very close role. But I'm going to take Moses' advice, or at least the step that he took. A lot of times we have reasons for bitterness. A lot of times we have reasons for bitterness, or anger. And like I was saying before, in dealing with that, you're gonna have to step over other emotions. You're gonna have to step over other situations, because very closely, one thing can lead to another. Like how they say here, betrayal by a friend cuts especially deep, wounding the soul. Everyone expects opposition from those on the outside, but what do you do when it comes from within? And with Moses leading the people, honoring, what God is telling him, what he's sharing with him, or, what he's ordering him to do on behalf of them, to bring that, you know, to bring his word to pass. And he became angry. And so he immediately dealt with it by not wanting to mess up that connection and just pleading with the Lord to recognize where he was, but to also not respond fleshly and, ruin what what move of God was meant to come to pass. And this is also coming from the virtue shared earlier. And still today, after 2,000 years, patiently, lovingly, Christ is reaching out to us today, right through the chaos of our world, through the confusion of our minds. He is reaching, longing to share with us the very being of God. Though your hurt may be justifiably right, your anger may be justifiably true. Is it worth more? Um, is it worth more to respond from your flesh than to give it to God? It says he restrained his rage and poured out his heart. His anger led to his love, led to him going to God with what he was dealing with in the process of walking the steps God has ordered for him. Sorry, this passage is really speaking to me, but let me So, wherever you are, um, within your walk of life, wherever you are after what may have just happened, wherever you are, when you are ready, when you're ready to deal with any bitterness, any unresolved anger, any unresolved resentment, bring it to God first. By sight, it will make us angry. I'll say that again. By sight, it'll make us angry. And if you remember those symptoms, the loss of perspective, the loss of energy, the loss of identity, the loss of faith, we don't really want to lose that connection, especially when we're going through something. And a lot of times that by sight can give a reaction to that appropriate or inappropriate. It'll give that reaction rather than this is how I'm going to act in this situation. I'm going to honestly, wholeheartedly bring it to God. That way it can be handled it can be handled righteously, but it doesn't it because anger is cruel and it's overwhelming, and if left unchecked, it can destroy, it can demoralize, and just really damage who you are, what you're doing, where you are, and um, and how you actually choose to do it. How you choose to go about it, and choosing um, choosing to give it to God can reflect your character, um, but it can also show you, where your heart really is. Um, I know bitterness can result from the evil in the world, and for those of us that want to combat that, um, a lot of that is very difficult to process. And so, although you may be angry, although you may be bitter, I want to ask you today to bring it to God. Remember, remember, one national leader knew the hurt of such betrayal. He had led wisely, he demonstrated courage, and won the confidence of his people. He was there for them, and they knew it. Whatever that looks like for you, I want to ask you today to give it to God. It doesn't have to be right after. Um, it can be, during right now. You can hit pause um, and and be honest with Him. Um, bring bring your bring your full self. He's closer. Um, he's 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 closer in that moment. You're you may be bitter, but like Moses, you're pouring out your heart. You may be filled with rage, um, but you're still pouring out your heart. You may be filled with sadness, and you're pouring out your heart. That where there is despair, let us sow hope. Allow God. Um, God is there for you. He's always listening. He wants to hear from you. I want to really keep it in the context of where we are. But if the bitterness is connected to other parts, um, bring that to him as well. Let him know that you're willing to do things the right way, but Lord, I need your help. I'm 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 willing to make the changes to be better, um, to operate in a better way, and to have you develop my character, um, to be a better fit for what you have for me, for who you have for me, for whatever it is, um, for whatever it is that we're meant to do. But I have to get through this. I have to work past this anger. I have to work past whatever is unresolved. What's, you know, what's creating, even if it's momentary, creating these moments where the loss of vision, the loss of identity, the loss of faith. What we see may not match up with what God tells us, with what God shows us. And in that moment, we have to walk by faith and not by sight. So God, I come to you. I come to you right now on behalf of the word that was just spoken, from the small connections that I've made, because I know the word is probably deeper than that. But from the connections that I have made here, and from the connections that they are making within their own personal lives, and especially within their relationship with you, I ask that you allow this word to really get into their spirits. But Father God, I further pray that they come into your presence, that your spirit accepts them. I don't some people may feel like they can't bring it to God for whatever reason. They may think he's not listening, he's not there, or like I said, there are extremes for people that that don't think he exists. And we're not meant to do this alone. And that's what his word is here for. God, let them know that you are love, that they are loved, that you will be patient with them, that you will not treat them like the world, that they can come to you honestly, boldly, that they will know your might, that they will begin to hear your voice in others, that they will begin to see you help them and guide them and direct them as they're coming out of that dark place, dealing with phobias, insecurities, the things that are holding them back from your image of them, of the way that you made them here, for whatever afflictions that they are dealing with, that they have accepted into their spirit. God, I ask that you purge their spirits of what does not belong, so they can begin to regain that vision of themselves, that perspective of themselves, that bridge between you and them. allow them to walk by your faith, the faith that has been deposited in their lives. God, I ask that this word reaches them in the way you meant it to whom you meant it to. And I pray that everyone listening to the sound of my voice has the courage, hope, and intuition to honor that voice in your heart that says I'm here for you. To honor that place within you that's ready to change for the better. Anything left unresolved within ourselves can affect our relationships to the people that are closest around us. From relationships, it could be betrayal from the last, from the last person we were in a relationship with, from the last person we tried to work on a project with, from anything that has hurt us deeply, that cannot be expressed verbally, but that is harbored emotionally, and that will begin to damage our spirits if not handled the right way. God, I ask that you give them the courage to take the first step today in resolving what is unresolved, and help them to recognize your presence more, to know that it's okay to bring what's heavy on your heart, those worries, to cast the burdens to him. In your name, with full thanks, with full belief and power in your word. Amen.